So I'm back playing Third Reich after a long hiatus for any number of reasons. The situation, we are in winter 1939, the Allies are playing, and we've reached the construction phase. Suffice to say, the Soviets, they hadn't moved when I moved the French, or they invaded Belgium, and when I moved the British, largely reallocating troops down to the Mediterranean. They took a pass option. I don't think there's a lot that the Soviets are going to do at this point. They're in stasis, facing the Germans at that sort of demarcation line. So there's going to be little movement there. But they can still construct. And so they are going to do that, and I've selected for them an air unit, a couple of armour units, and a couple of infantry units, whilst the British themselves construct a couple of infantry, a naval unit, and a air unit. So I'm going to position those now and return to this once I've done that. So with that done, there's a few additional British pieces placed up here, a couple of infantry. This is the new naval unit, Air Force in London. The Russians have allocated pieces across the front line and an Air Force down in the south. It has left both of them pretty much spent out. The British have just 15 BRP left. The Soviets just 18. So not a lot to spend, but the Soviets have basically built everything in their available force pool for this scenario. The British still have a few pieces left, but not a great deal. So essentially everything that can be built for the start of the war has been built. If you play the longer campaign game, then the force pool is significantly larger and comes into play in 1942. So now over to strategic redeployment, which I will carry out and see where that, if it does shift anything. I don't think it will do particularly, but there may be some movement for the British in terms of, again, once more strengthening the Mediterranean. So I think the only SR I'm going to do is one of the new infantry units that I built, and I'm going to SR it, strategically redeploy it, beg your pardon, from England via this fleet here, all the way around. You can't see, around to Gibraltar, which is just off camera. I could perhaps just show it down here, where another fleet there picks it up and itself moves it through the Mediterranean, and we will drop it in Alexandria, where there is space. And in the strategic redeployment phase. And with that, the British turn, the Allied turn, is completed. So we come to the German turn, or should I say the Axis turn. The first thing that they have to do on their turn is any declarations of war. And there's a decision to be made. Historically, of course, we're kind of 2 turns away from when they the Germans did declare war on Denmark and Belgium and Netherlands, and then into France. But the French invasion and conquest of Belgium has slightly changed things, and feels like a gauntlet has been thrown. And I don't want to kind of just leave that unanswered. Now, we're obviously at war with France. We begin the game at war with France. So we could, as the Germans, push into Belgium and try and push the French out of Belgium. We could come in through the south, down through Strasbourg, or and then swing round. That is fairly exposed and a weak unit, though it is behind this fortification, the old, I suppose, Maginot Line. So that's an option, and the French have left the door open a little bit by sending troops into Belgium and leaving this a bit thinly defended. So there's a bit of a decision. I mean, of course, we could just, as the Germans, save the BRPs from declarations of war and offensives, and just use them to build up our forces. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm not yet going to go into France. Maybe I should. But I'm going to go into the Netherlands. So I'm going to declare war against the Netherlands. So that's a 10 BP cost to declare war on a minor power. So I just adjust my BRPs. And then it's going to be, it has to be I have to then declare an offensive on that front. But before then, the Allies can place the few Dutch troops in the Netherlands, and that equates to this, and I'm going to place them in The Hague, the capital, that one infantry unit and that one air unit. But that's another 10 BRPs spent for the, 15. So I'll just adjust that on the German BRP track. Those, of course, are BRPs they now can't spend on rearming. But we'll give that a go anyway. So, the Italians are not yet at war, so they're unable to declare anything other than a pass option on the front down here. And they're going to just stick with a pass action in the Mediterranean, I think. I mean, there's an argument, I suppose, for declaring war on France and or Britain, but I don't think I'm not sure really now is the time to be doing it. That's all to the south off camera here. So the Italians could go into the Mediterranean. They could, I suppose, if they wanted, even go into Yugoslavia. You can see there, but Yugoslavia has 20 BRPs if you capture it, but they do come with quite a significant force, and I don't think it's worthwhile the Italians getting embroiled in that just yet. So we're going to just stick with the Germans declaring war on the Netherlands and an offensive into there. Naval movement. I suppose I could move this navy into provide shore bombardment, but I think it would get intercepted by the British Navy, which is currently much stronger. And again, I don't think we need to worry about that because we're not coming up against a particularly strong opposition. So that would be the movement of fleets and interception, which we don't have. I don't have to designate any supply fleets because everything currently, so far as I can tell, is in supply. So that's all good. So we now come to movement of air and ground units. I should just pause the video and carry that out. So the Germans have pushed in here. You can see they've pushed up, and this is one. I'm just going to narrow in because let's focus. One of these ones where a map is a little bit confusing as to. Let me just move that out here. Is I believe that having occupied here, that despite this tiny narrow strip, that hex where the Germans are is adjacent to the Hague and is not attacking across a river, so any kind of river defence is negated, despite this sort of inlet here, or estuary. And similarly, from here to here, there's just a little join at that point that allows the attack from this hex into the Hague. So I'm gonna, I don't know whether, if I've done that wrong, I've done that wrong. Anyway, so those are, there's 7 factors in both of those hexes. So that's 14 against the 2 factors of, which is doubled up. Defense is always doubled, so that's 14 against 4. But now we're going to bring in all the air support. Now you can bring in a maximum of 3 times the ground factors. So the Germans could bring in 3 times 21, but they've got within 4 hexes, I'm not going to move the units individually, we've got 5 units coming in from Hamburg and Kiel, 5 from Bremen, 5 here, 5 from down in Cologne. So that's 20 added to the 714, so that's 34 factors. The Allies, the French, or all within 5 hexes, can support, so we could bring in the French here from Paris, can support again 3 times, maximum of 3 times the ground unit. So they can bring in a maximum of 6 ground of air support. Well, we've got the 1 Netherlands unit there, plus the French. So we've got a total of 2 4 doubled, plus the 6 ground air units. So that's 10 in all against the 14, 34. So 34 against 14 is a 3-to-1 attack. And I think that's the only factors we need to concern ourselves with. So I'm going to take the die, roll the die. Oh, a 1. Very bad for the Germans. That's an X exchange. So that is destroyed. The Dutch 2, but now the Germans have to lose an exchange of 4 strength, because that's the doubled factors. So they don't lose 2 in return, they lose 4. And the only way we can do that is with a armour unit. So that's pretty painful for the Germans. And so as a consequence of that, I think this has to, I don't think that can rebase anywhere, and that unit will advance in, and effectively the Netherlands have fallen. Now that marks the only assault the Germans are going to conduct in this turn. I'm not going to go into Denmark, and there's reasons why I don't want to spend any more, and that's because it's the construction phase now, and the Germans have plenty of pieces they can construct. However, the rule about who plays first in a turn is based on who has the most BRPs available. And at the moment, the Germans, without spending any money on construction, have 1 BRP more than the British and the French. So there's a interesting decision to be made. This, of course, requires a little bit of maths, because you have to work out how many BRPs Germany and Italy between them will have, as opposed to how many Britain and France will have, how many each side will have gained, the French from having conquered Belgium, the Germans from having conquered both Netherlands and Poland. And I'm trying in my head to work that out without getting a piece of paper out. I think the Germans can perhaps spend, and there's an element of risk in this, but I think about 15 points. So I think what I might do is I might take that risk. If I was playing in a kind of hard fashion, I'd get pen and paper out and try and calculate it. But I think when I'm playing two sides like this, I think it's a bit more fun to add an element of kind of guesswork, a bit of fog of war, and I've got to do it in my head. So I think there is room to spend about 15 points and for the Germans to do what is effectively called a flip-flop. So they act last on one turn and then first on the second turn. And that acting 2 times in a row can be quite powerful. Now, I don't know when we move into 1940 whether that is going to be something the Germans want to take advantage of. They might. So at least let's give the Germans the chance. So I'm going to spend 15 points, and I'm going to do that by spending one armoured unit, I beg your pardon, for 8. And then I'm going to spend 2 infantry. That's another 6 in total, 14. So I'm going to spend 14. And I'm going to build these. I think this probably makes sense. And reduce that by 14. So we go. And in a moment, or when I next come back to play this and we move into 1940, I will do the calculations and see whether, off the top of my head, I have calculated correctly. Now, we've done the construction phase, so the Germans haven't constructed much. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe I should have gone out and just spent, bought a whole bunch more units. But there's time. We're not yet in, we're still in 1939, strictly speaking. So strategic redeployment, I can see whether I'm, I think, frankly, kind of happy with how things are. I mean, the Germans can move 9 points or 9 units. The Italians 5. I mean, I suppose there's an argument for further bolstering the Italian presence in North Africa, just to keep the British honest. Now, the British can't carry out any invasions, so I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm going to but I'm going to leave those there in case I do decide to do a push north into Denmark. I may want to do that. I've got to keep 20 units in 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 plus 7, 20. So I don't actually need to leave all these units here. So I'm going to bring these back. Just leave a bit of, let's bring all this back this way. That's 3 units. I'm going to leave the I'm going to bring the air units forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's sort of, oh no, sorry, no, it's 5 per city. That's, I can't stack multiple air units unless I build an air base. I don't think I need to at the moment. Let's see, is there a city there? No, there isn't. So let's reallocate that and bring that air unit closer. So obviously massing German presence on the border there with Belgium and Luxembourg. I think we might see some action there. Now, what about the Italians? I mean, the Italians, I think we're not at war, so we can don't think I'm going to be going into Yugoslavia, frankly. But you never know. Maybe I do want to keep a bit of presence there. Hold a couple of units here to hold the French in place. The British have a minimal presence in the, of troops themselves. Currently, I don't think I can weaken Britain any further. Not for the time being. They've got a bit they can still build, but not a lot. No, I think we're going to leave it like that. I don't think I am going to do any strategic redeployment. I'm still learning the game. I still don't quite know what I'm doing. So I think with that, as I check the sequence of play, nothing is unsupplied. We can obviously remove these pieces that were destroyed during the battle for the Netherlands. Everything that has been done that needs to be done. So I think we can call that the end of 1939, and we shall see whether the spring of 1940 sees a dramatic German invasion of France.